Welcome to Prisca Theologia. So, what exactly is the Prisca Theologia? Well, we're told all is mind in the Hermetic philosophy. And we know that Walter Russell said that there is one mind, and we are expansions of this one mind. The intelligence permeates everything, and we're active partakers in this unity, and therefore we are the hands that manifest that intelligence. Hence, we have hands. In Spanish, it's termed manos, and we're called man. All is a tomb, as we've been learned from syncretists such as Santos Bonacci, going back all the way to ancient Egypt to the main verse that they spoke was all is a tomb, which means that the sound that permeates from the supernal realm, or the cause, because everything goes from the most subtle to the most gross, manifest as the word, and that word is a sound or solar luminescence. And that solar luminescence expands and manifests as different individual entities. And therefore, we are the hands that manifest that intelligent will in the physical realm of Malkuth, which is at the bottom of the tree of life. So we're taking the above here, where we would call Bhagavan, God, Jehovah Elohim, Krishna Radharani, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, depending on the tradition, manifesting in the middle of the tree of life, Tiphereth, which would be the human soul, or what the Christ manifesting on the human soul plane, and then Malkuth, the physical world. So everything from this causal realm trickles down the Sephiroth and transmutes into the final realm, which is the physical realm, and which creates individualized partials that are philosophically to be said to descend from the highest abodes and manifesting as physical, subtle, non-subtle, but gross actual forms within the four elements. So these invisible forces are the archetypes that these 9 that the soul manifests through are the invisible archetypes, or the invisible forces that make up the realm of ideals. So the Neoplatonists taught emanationism, emanation from the Latin emanare, meaning to flow from. So everything flows from the divine cause and manifests into individualized forms, microcosms that manifest the entire aspects and qualities of the cause. So that's why it says Jehovah Elohim created Adam and Eve. Well, he created Adam, and then Adam was split into Adam and Eve's, which would mean the divine descent of the monad and transforming into its dual aspects, the dyad, or Adam and Eve, male and female, spirit and soul, Purusha and Prakriti. And these two descend into the physical realm and experience the world that we experience as we experience it. And then as they conquer and resubtleize their bodies, they reacquire the forgotten, dormant archetypes within them, because they have the seeds of the cause. Just like a tree gives off a seed, and that seed has everything it needs to recreate itself as that tree. It has all the elements, the root, the flowers, the potential for fruit, the potential for leaves. So too does our inner tree of life have the potential for these different qualities, and they manifest as the 12 and the 7. We have the 12 intelligences, which would be the creative aspect, the intelligence of God, which manifests itself in a 12, because that monad manifests as a dyad. And within that duality is a 12ness of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. As what would I be called? The kingdom of heaven, spring and summer in the northern hemisphere. And then we have what I would say the kingdom of earth, which would be Leo, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. Now this 12 is the knights table that King Arthur instructs the knights into their journey. It's the 12 apostles. It's the 12 archetypes that make up the 12 intelligences of the 13th, the 13th, which would be the teacher, the Messiah, the master, the inner witness, the one that is manifesting all of it. So you'd have the 13, which is the I am. That 13 manifests the witness. John the Baptist says, I've come to witness the Christ. He witnesses the I am, the 13th. And that witness within us can also observe the ego, the lower ego, which manifests as the mind, the personality, the emotions, the animal instincts, or the human soul. So we have our human soul, our animal soul, and our divine soul. That Christ manifested the witness is the human soul, which allows us to have self-awareness or self-cognizance, allows us to reflect upon ourselves. Animals don't know, can't tell the difference between time intervals, whereas humans can observe and see the different aspects of time and can forecast their future, essentially. So we all know about the 12 zodiac. The 12 zodiac have been hidden within all the esoteric lore from the ancient ages, whether it be in the 12 labors of Hercules, the 12 apostles, 12 knights, 12 stones. It's important to understand that the ancient esoterics, the ancient priests, were also anatomists. Anatomists mean physiological researchers. They studied the body, and they knew the body was the microcosm of the macrocosm. So when they studied the body, they knew that there was the story of the universe was within the body itself, because the body was the manifested word. They knew that the light manifest from God, or the creator, manifest its individual forms in all of our individual beings. And because of that, all the truth lies within us and allows us to have access to these inner archetypes as long as we activate them. Because just like Jesus says in the Bible, seeds are cast onto the ground, only some sprout trees that grow fruit. So it is possible to live your life without activating these archetypes. So what do we mean by archetypes? I mean, like, to master discipline of Saturn, or to understand the jolliness and charity nature of Jupiter, or the ability to have righteous anger, righteous cause, to fight for a righteous cause of Mars, to elevate the lower ego to the higher individuality of the sun, because the sun is the I am, the individuality, to understand the celestial beauty through the earthly beauty as we understood in the planets within. See, Marsilio Ficino knew that the 7 planets all took on characteristics. There's a hierarchy of the universe. Starts with, at the very top, the light of God, goodness and truth. Then we have on the next level, light of angels, intelligence. Then we have the light of heaven, the abundance of life. Then we have the light of fire, the propagation of powers of the heavens. Ficino offers an even more elaborate hierarchy in 9 stages corresponding, he says, to the 9 muses of Apollo. Sometimes there's also 9 because we have Uranus and Neptune, which are the higher chakras, the transcendental chakras. We have the 7 chakras, or the 7 rungs of the ladder, that the hero must elevate himself on Jacob's ladder. Jacob laid his head upon a stone and saw angels rising up and down Jacob's ladder. Now, if the ancients were anatomists and understood transcendental truth and saw that the body was the manifestation, they knew that the spinal column was Jacob's ladder, and that the 7 chakras were the rungs, and the angels that are ascending and descending are the different various energy currents that are flowing through the body. Now, a lot of people say that there's no way that Eastern Kundalini yoga could be incorporated into Western Christianity, but the truth is that because the universe is a synchronized, collaborative realm or organism of organization, because there's only one truth, different cultures perceive that one truth in different ways and understand the science either way. So even if they didn't come across each other or pass along scrolls to, cross information, which definitely did happen, which is just another way of the cosmic mind helping information to cross from one way to the other. The universe is a promoter of information of human beings who are receptors of this higher divine light. And we take that and we manifest it and we scribe it or we write it. And we are able to manifest it and teach it to others through our words. And by doing that, we are able to help spread information. So the information ends up becoming a collaborative function. So of course, there's going to be 100% commonalities of Kundalini Yoga, Krishna science with the science of Christianity, or the science of the Egyptians, Osiris, Horus, and Isis. There's going to be these similarities because the divine mind is always going to manifest these stories and mythological archetypes that manifest in the realm of ideals, in the light of angels and intelligence, because this realm of archetypes, which is right under the light of God, which is goodness and truth. Please see the video, Ancient Theology and Jacob's Ladder, where I explain the different layers of existence and how the soul manifests on these different layers and how all of these dimensions are actually within us. So we have the sun, the firmament, bright because of its fitness hidden to us. The stars visible white, the stars red, the stars mixed. Simple uncomposed sublunar things translucent. Translucent sublunar things composed of glass or crystal. Things composed of translucent like carbuncle or oily things that hold light. Colors and colored images, which may be in extreme be white or black or middle and green. So these are the different stages or the hierarchy of the universe and how it manifests in different ways. So unlike the materialist scientists who always are looking for a logical reason, he's noting the fact that there's millions of translucent light, sublunar essence of beings, translucent objects in the sky, which I would say that they're plasma within the firmament. In the ancient theology, it was known that the soul descending from the spiritual realm into the physical realm was an inherent death of the soul, figuratively. So the soul was entombed in matter or crucified to a body, because when you spread your arms out in the shape of a cross, you can see that the body is the shape of the cross, and that corresponds to the four elements, which is earth, water, air, and fire, which is what we experience as our physical body. Our flesh. We have the fluids of the body, or the chemistry. We have the wind, which is the breath, the fire, which is the electrical impulse. But then this manifests the hidden one, which is a spirit, which is ether, which is the symbol of the resurrection on one level. We have to understand that when we're reading these ancient scriptures, they are magical books that manifest on 7 different layers. We have the alchemical, the astrological, the biochemical, the anagogical, the literary, the moral, and the historical. Historical meaning that they use historical places and aspects and certain characters that may have existed to create a story that these characters manifest the psychological, idealistic archetypes of the soul in human form, so that we can understand them in Malkuth, which is the physical realm of sight, because these invisible to the physical eyes are interpreted through the mind as ideas and stories. So the alchemical interpretation is that the soul descends into the cube of matter, uncubed itself to a cross. As Christ says, we must all bear our cross. We bear our cross, we go through the trials of life, we do our best to conquer matter. The soul's conquering over the circumstances of material existence. That's what this realm has always been about. The ancient initiate traditions have always went through the trials of earth, water, air, and fire, and even in the modern day mystery schools continue to follow the traditions because there is no other way. That's why in the Bible it says, first, Jesus is born in the stable with a very earthly element, and then is baptized by John the Baptist, which would be Aquarius, the water pitcher, because he's always the one with the pitcher of water. He baptizes us with the knowledge, I know. Christ then awakens his inner knowing to know that he's the Son of God, which means he is the light manifest, or the Spirit manifest in the four elements. John the Baptist says, the one that comes after me, the Christ, I'm not worthy to unbuckle his shoes, because he's talking about Pisces, which rules the feet, because John the Baptist is right next to Pisces. Jesus was born between Sagittarius and Capricorn, which is the stable, crucified on the cross of matter, earth, water, air, and fire. He says, the one that comes after me baptizes with fire. And Jesus says, come and meet me in the clouds when you see me in the clouds. And it's always expected that the Christ comes in the clouds. It's kind of like a myth, but it's actually true, because that Christ, that light, that illumination comes within the brain. And the brain, because it's heaved up upon the body, was known as the kingdom of heaven, as the lower parts of the body below the kidneys, or Libra, would be the kingdom of earth, or the kingdom of hell, also known as Egypt. So as we can see, we have the astrological interpretation, but we also have the literary and moral. Notice that, on YouTube, if you type in any God stories from either the Christian or Indian tradition of Krishna, a lot of kid stories pop up, because in all the stories, even if you don't know the mysteries, you can still understand the literary knowledge, which is the lesson or moral of the story. For example, in Krishna science, there's a story where the lion Narasimha protects the devotee from his atheist father, who's trying to kill him and abuse him. And because that father, who's an atheist king, accepted a boon from the gods that he would not be killed by man, killed by weapon, inside of a house, outside of a house, by man or beast or any weapon, that devotee, because he was worshiping the god and his father was cruel to him, Narasimha, which is the lion manifestation of half man, half lion, manifests. It's a half man, half lion with big nails, manifests in the pillar inside of the mansion, because, and then he kills the atheist king between the door of his house and outside the house with his claws, which means no weapon. He's not killed by fist or weapon, not killed by man or beast, because he's half man and half lion, which is mysteries of Leo, which in Jesus is the lion of the tribe of Judah. And what the story is trying to say is that the Lord, or the spiritual ether, always overtakes the elements and circumstances of earth, and that the Lord, or God, or universal cause, always protects its people that take special interest and special compassion towards others. And also those that may be shrouded in confusion, is able to see the truth and to help descend into the physical realm. It's talking about the Christic energy that descends from the sun into the physical realm and starts organizing. It is the answer to the problem, or it is always providing the solution for the problem, or overcoming the elements. So what takes place is Narasimha is able to destroy the atheist king, so that light that manifests as the lion, or the Lord, manifest within our life to help us to transmute these elements and overcome the circumstances of life. So within this nature of reality, we have the sine wave, which manifests the 12 zodiac. And the 12 zodiac manifests within the human body biochemically or physiologically. Aries ruling the head, Aries, the ram, or the cerebrum, which is the higher functions of the body. Then we have Taurus, which rules the throat, which is the voice, the ability to, as well as the cerebellum, which is the brain behind the cerebrum, which is the lower brain, which controls more of the impulsive functions. We have Gemini, the lungs, and the arms, the two twins. Adam and Eve, Pollux and Castor, Thomas and Jesus, Jesus and Lucifer, different variations in different traditions. We have Cancer, the crab, the scarab, which is the beetle, and Alvin Boy Kuhn, it was Devil's Pulpit explains, Reverend Robert Taylor explains how ancient Christian theologian even explained Jesus as a cockchafer, the beetle. And the ancient Egyptians knew that the beetle was to manifest the sun in a small literary way, because the little beetle rolls its little dung balls up the hill, just like the sun is rolled up, and then creates itself and gives birth, creates its nest and gives birth out of it, resurrects again, just like the sun goes through its eternal cycles: spring, summer, fall, and winter. Winter would be the watery months, the reign of Noah when the flood occurs, in the age of water, Aquarius and Pisces, the water bear, or Pisces, the two fish. And Aries would be, for example, when Moses blows the ram horns to say, and says, stop worshiping the golden calf of Taurus. It's because it moves backwards as we move through the ages. So even though the true year starting at March 21st, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, they've changed it to start in January. But that just starting at Capricorn, which is just the Earth beginning of the wave, the starting of this pulse, whereas the spring would be the starting of that pulse. We have the spirit and earth, spirit, soul. So you have the 12 months, and then you have the 13th, which is the sun itself, or the hero that has to conquer, manifest, or go through the 12 labors, or manifesting the 12 intelligences of the creator. Each apostle manifests as a zodiac sign, as well as an inherent quality of divinity or intelligence that must be cultivated within us. When the Christ was crucified, or the light's crucified on the cross, it says I-N-R-I. I-N-R-I is an ancient mantra, which means fire always renews nature. Fire is continually renewing nature. The fire, the spirit, is always renewing and creating and burning to ashes, and from the ashes creating brand new soil to create new trees, new life. And each life or resurrected being, each time you renew yourself, is at a more finer stage. Your inner fire is always evaporating the inner waters of your chemistry. In the same way, the sun evaporates the water turns to vapor, the vapor turns to clouds, the clouds turns to lightning, and then we hear the thunder. Is the same way that the inner philosophical fire, or the alchemical fire, which is a psychological fire, is transmuting the elements of the chemistry of the body and creating an inner vapor or inner astral cloud, which is how the astral body and the inner garments or the inner layers of the being are fed and nourished so that they can manifest their full potential. That's why we see the rainbow body, or we hear of these different vehicles that the soul can travel in, because these bodies need to be built through the purifying fire that evaporates the water out of the earth of the body into the air using the breath. But we're talking about breath, we're talking about Aleph. Aleph being the Hebrew alphabet letter A, which is for the philosophical air, or the spiritual air, which is more subtle and actually more spiritual than oxygen itself. But oxygen, it's a carrier of that spiritual air that we manifest through our breath. And when that mixes with the sexual energy, because the sexual energy is the fluid manifested as the light manifesting through its octaves of density, goes from subtle to gross. You have, like we said, earth, water, air, and fire. And then you have spirit. The sexual energy manifests as earth and water, but it comes from the fire and the spirit. That sexual seed is what liberates the elements from the imprisonment of matter and resurrects itself. So that we said, Alvin Boy Kuhn says, when the soul descends into a physical individual organism, it's said to die from its translucent sublime state, but that cross that it bears helps it understand the difference between good and evil. Because the tree of good and knowledge of good and evil is the realm of duality, red shift, blue shift, which manifested these 12. And the serpent is the sine wave for the sin of Eve. And when we bite that Taurus field, which is the apple, we fall into physical realm and have to go through the 12 labors as we go through the 12 months of the year. In fact, we go through it yearly, daily. On a daily level, Aries would be 6 a.m., right when the sun comes up. That's why The sign of the crow or the cock is also the symbol of Aries, which is a symbol of potency, fire, cardinal fixed, mutable. We have Taurus, which is fixed, the bull. That's when you begin your work processes. Gemini, communication. Cancer, your home life, your foundation. Leo, your inner will. Virgo, which would be the digestive processes, lunchtime. Or not lunchtime, but probably just finishing up your work. Leo, between Cancer and Leo would be the digestion system, just as in the alchemical process, the 12 stages of alchemy, we have calcination in Aries, but then we have the digestion, Leo. And distillation, Virgo. Distillation being the distillery within the spinal system. Because as we said, these 7 planets manifest within us in the same way like the 7 chakras. And as we turn lead into gold, which lead would be the lowest factor, and then at the highest philosophically, gold would be the spirit. So transmuting the lead of the personality into the soul or the spirit, go through these 7 steps by transmuting and activating the 7 chakras one by one as the sacred secretion bursts through each chakra. But it's an energetic vapor. That vapor is distilled through the fire, the inner fire, which manifests the Christ. That's why John the Baptist says, the one that comes before me, it comes after me, is going to baptize with fire and the Holy Spirit. As John the Baptist is only the water initiation, where the soul acquires the truth of itself and understands that there's a higher truth than just its robotic earth reactive consciousness. Then in the air, you reach no thought or a stillness of the mind, and then you're hit with the fire of the illumination. Many people can become illuminated. Self-realization is the ether. Ether is the hidden one, the 13th, which corresponds to the 13th cranial nerve, which allows you to have access to the Akashic records or the ether or the higher interdimensional planes of existence through the physical nerve, which it connects to with the invisible portal, the claustrum, which is access to the higher realms of reality. And you're able to understand all of the higher knowledge and manifest all 12 of the zodiac within yourself and become 13th, the Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer, because you've raised your kundalini. As Moses says, you must raise your, as the Son of Man was lifted up. So Jesus says, as Moses in the desert lifted up the serpent, so the Son of Man must be lifted up on the cross. And we see the cross with the snake. We see Moses lifted up the snakes in the wilderness to prove to the Pharaoh his majestic powers, because he was archetypally the magician or the prophet or the one who had activated the 33rd vertebrae and manifested the cosmic consciousness to manifest power over the elements. That's why all the characters are always conquering the elements. For example, when Jesus is in the boat, and his disciples are worried that the waves are crashing, the master, Jesus, was sleeping. He's just taking a nap, because the Christ or Krishna or the 5th element, or the one that's beyond the 5th element, for to say, the one that's the higher ego, even beyond the I am, the being beyond being, the super personal Christic intelligence is always non-perturbed or non-perturbed by the elements or circumstances. So while everyone's freaking out about the boat, the Master Jesus is just asleep, or is walking on the waters, or Moses is parting the Red Sea, or turning the water into blood, or Christ is turning water into wine. Now, all of these can also be seen biochemically, because the lungs and the air are where the marriage of Cana takes place, where the Master and the inner spirit within us, the inner intelligence, transmutes our air and our waters into blood, which is the wine. And also when the secretion rises up to the brain, it activates the nerves, which purify the blood, turning the blood new, which is the new wine, not putting new wine in old garments, because we actually renew our whole body. The atoms in our body become etherealized. Our realm becomes more lucid. We become more conscious. When we become conscious, we utilize the witness, and the witness is able to comprehend the ego, which is under the circumstances of the 3 gunas of nature: passion, ignorance, and goodness. We're always either acting in the mode of goodness, in the mode of passion, or the mode of ignorance. We're either stagnant, neutral, passive, or aggressive, or assertive. And these are always playing out. And the witness, which is beyond them, is able to observe. And once we observe ourselves, we can lift ourselves out. Then this inner witness, the human soul, combines with the inner being, or the glory, which is the I am, which is the manifest of the 13, which is the sun. And mysteries of 13 also have to do with the fact that we have, like, for example, the 12 zodiac, and then the sun, the 13th. Or we have the 12 parts of the body. Pisces ruling the feet, Aquarius ruling the shins, Capricorn ruling the kneecaps, Sagittarius ruling the hips, hence horse. Scorpio ruling the generative system, the backbiter, the part that can really hold someone back or make someone descend into more crude forms if they don't control the energy. Then we have Libra, the scales with the kidneys. And in the ancient rite, we knew that anything below the kidneys was known as Egypt, which would be the physical desires, because that's where all the hunger, appetites of sexual appetites and different lusts exist. And when we conquer those energies, we can transmute that vapor up into the brain. And that's how we restore our kinetic energy and allow ourselves to be more spiritually energized. We have Virgo, stomach area. Leo, the heart, Cancer, the breast, Gemini, the lungs, Taurus, the throat, and the cerebellum, and then Aries, the cerebrum. And each one manifests in these texts in different ways. Alan P. Hall says, in the secret teachings of all ages, the oldest and most profound, the most universal of all symbols of the human body, the Greeks, Persians, Egyptians, and Hindus considered a philosophical analysis of man's triune nature to be an indispensable part of ethical and religious training. The mysteries of every nation taught that the laws, elements, and powers of the universe were epitomized in the human constitution, that everything which existed outside of man had its analogous within man. As we see the 12 zodiac manifesting as the 12 systems of the body, and we have the different elements, fire, air, water, earth, manifesting outside of us as rivers, earth, the sun, the air, but also philosophically as our inner impulses, our will, our mind, the air, our emotions, the water, or our soul, and the earth, our physical brain, or our automatic nature. We have the planets within us, Saturn, our discipline, the coldness, melancholy, Jupiter, charity, positiveness, or the ordinary nature of life, Mars, anger, wrath, Sun, ego, individuality, or pride, or even our inner spiritual abilities on our highest level, Venus, lust, life, zest, beauty, Mercury, our ability to communicate or receive messages from the divine, and the moon, our generative nature, or our imagination, or the astral plane. So all of these manifest within us, and the ancients actually knew that sound was the best way to access these inner realities. So we have the mantras as given to us by Heller, the ancient Gnostic, the German Gnostic teacher, who was the mentor of Samael Weor. So we have at the top of the head, or the crown, the pineal gland, to awaken our inner sight, which should be E. Inhale and exhale, E. The throat, we have to manifest the powers of Taurus, the word O. In the heart, to help. That is the best mantra to tap into the emotional nature and to activate the astral plane. So if you're looking to have more visions or vivid experiences, O helps to spin the heart disc. Ooh, at the solar plexus to charge the willpower or the adrenal gland. Each one of these is connected to a gland in the body, as well as the 7 metals: iron, tin, copper, gold, silver, 7 planets, as well as the 7 days of the week. Each time you go through a week, you're going through the rungs of the ladder. Every time you go through a month, you're going through the 12. On a monthly cycle, you're going through March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That's the 12, but also don't forget 6 a.m., 6 p.m., and you're always coming up again. The sun is coming up at 6 a.m., cock-a-doodle-doo, Aries, manifesting that potent energy. And then going down as the sun goes into right here, starts to go down beneath the scales of Libra, starts to have sunset. Horus and Set are always fighting because light and darkness are always battling it out. And that inner battle takes place within us. So we have to understand that that light has to evaporate all the waters. All the allegories in the Bible of the Lord evaporating and drying up the earth is an allegory for the inner Lord within us that has to evaporate all of our waters from our philosophical earth. philosophical earth. So then we have which is the thymus gland, which is responsible for the immune system. And then hum, which would be the sexual gland, the uterus, the prostate, and then the sexual organs. Each one of these can be vocalized upon the exhale, which will help to evoke or invoke all of these planetary forces, which in Western esoteric theology would be the 7 archangels. We have Raphael, Mercury, Gabriel, the moon, Michael, the sun, Samael, Mars, Zachariel, Saturn. Each one has an angel. Each one is an angel of light or angle of light. The words always have double meanings depending on how you arrange them, because the words are information or data that manifests from the light realm. So, as you can see, all of these stories have these different levels of interpretation. The literary is just as good as the alchemical. The alchemical just as good as the astrological. The astrological connects to the biochemical. Then, of course, we have the anagogical, which means the huge picture, which means, for example, Christ being a symbol of the soul dying to descend into matter to be crucified on the cross is a very big picture of it. Or to see that the Eve biting the apple is her biting the torus field of manifesting the soul's desire to be pulled down into physical realm of duality, to be conditioned. Because don't forget that we are in the physical realm of the cross, crucified on the cross, we're limited. Even though the soul within us is resurrected and lives in its immortal abode, we still have to go through those trials of the elements. And life is initiation itself. And the Lord within, or the universal creator, is always trying to help us develop these 12 intelligences. And our life is always pushing us to nourish and facilitate the growth and function and development of the 7 chakras within us, which correspond to the 7 glands, which correspond to the 7 vowels, correspond to the 7 days of the week. We have to wrestle with that angel on Jacob's ladder, because that energy that always manifests down, the impulsive animalistic impulses, must be transmuted. And Eliphas Levi in High Magic talks about the fact that transmuted desire turns into that kinetic energy, and that you have to utilize the desires of the animal will and transmute them into the angelic will, which is the compassionate bodhicitta in the Buddhist tradition, which we'll be getting into in later lectures. So the individual or human universe was termed the microcosm, and the divine life or spiritual entity controlling its function was called the microcosm, micro-office. The pagan mysteries were primarily concerned with instructing Nephites in the true relationship existing between the macrocosm and the microcosm. In other words, between God and man. Accordingly, the key to these analogies between the organs and functions of the microcosmic man and those of the macrocosmic man constitute the most prized possession of the earthly initiates. So the whole goal of syncretism, or the science, or Prisca Theologia, is to unite the jiva in Eastern traditions, or in Western traditions, the soul, with its cause, or the father, or the universal cause within. We have to unite, purify the ego, the physical realm, annihilate the animal ego, utilize the witness to do the will of the Father, which is the inner I am. The inner I am is the individualized Jehovah Elohim, or Father, Mother God, that manifests in each individual, which is a miniature of the supreme Bhagavan or universal, personal, super personal divinity that is always within its own abode, but still somewhat involved within all of its creation. Because we have the three aspects of that entity. We have its personal aspect in its individual form. Think of like a light bulb. Then we have the rays of the light bulb, and then we have the surfaces that the light bulb shines on. So we have light in its three forms. We have light that emanates from the source, the ray, or not the ray, but the vibration that it causes in the ether, like Ken Willer says, manifesting that inner light all within us, all out. That's why you can breathe in that ether, that spiritual Holy Spirit energy, and be guided by it. Then you have the individual super soul, which is accompanying the jiva, or the personal soul, which is our individual space. That's why Krishna on the battlefield is always telling Arjuna that Krishna knows everyone's past lives and knows the past and the future. Arjuna can't remember everyone's past lives, let alone his own. So the super soul is aware of everything transcendentally, while our individual soul is aware of our field. This is where we begin to understand the difference between the knower and the field. The inner knower within is the Christ or Krishna within. Krishna says, know that I am the knower of all fields. But you also have your own miniature knower, or your inner 13, which is the I am, which manifests the witness, which is able to understand and know its field. But that supreme self, that provident I, that universal cause is beyond our own personal knowers, because we only know our own individual bodies. I can't know someone else's body. So in this realm, we have limitations. We have the 7 aspects of life that have tried to give us some type of limitation so that we have knowledge of ourselves. I like to say that the soul descended to know what it is as opposed to what it is not, and to come back with that higher conceptual knowledge. Hence Hermes, thrice great. You're born into the physical realm, or die into the physical realm. To die, to go into a womb, to be born, to go into a tomb, to come out the cosmic womb, born by the celestial virgin of Venus through the divine mother, to be born again. So you're born again here in the physical world, but then you're born thrice in the heavens. So it's thrice great. Hermes was born thrice great. So anagogically, a lot of these are about the soul's journey. So yeah, this is syncretism. This is the Prisca Theologia. This is how we can understand how our minds are expansions of these archetypes and create the universal patterns and functions that drive us. The collective archetypes are distributed and give qualities according to the 7 planets and the 12 signs of the zodiac. Our minds being instruments of our spirit souls, which are individual conscious entities. We as entities bond to a mind which is formed from these pre-existing archetypes that we explained here. And when we are manifesting this in the same way, like downloading into a computer, but we are not the computer. Our minds and creative faculties are all connected and powered by the same source. Ideas trickle down and crystallize into the material realm of fixed forms. So what connection does this have with our stories that we tell and pass down? As we can tell from Alboy Kuhn or Fashinian science, that these archetypes and ideals are the light information coming down and being perceived as forms and stories. We have the literary, the moral, the historical, the anagogical, even manifesting in our bodies biochemically. So all of these works contain common themes, such as the journey of the hero, which is the soul, the journey that the sun, which is soul in Spanish, takes place every year on the ecliptic, as well as every 12 months, yearly and daily through the 24-hour cycle. So these stories from ancient scriptures are all heroic tales, and we even can see them in modern day tales, modern day stories, modern day movies, because in this life we live out the law of rhythm, going to the 7 hermetic principles, starting with the law of mentalism. Within that 1, we have that descends into the dyad, and the 2 become breathing in and breathing out. That in-breath and out-breath creates that rhythm. So we have the ups and downs. We work hard and see results only to be defeated. We then build ourselves back up and reach a point higher, or we become betrayed by Judas, Scorpio, the backbiter. As you know, when a Scorpio bites you, it leaves a kiss mark. Hence, Jesus had a kiss mark when Judas kissed him, because Judas represents the betrayer. And our lustful energy in Scorpio betrays us at times and ends up creating a backbite or stings us. And that sting is known as the Kunda buffer, or the negative polarity of the Kundalini. So we have to, which is known as Satan's tail. That's why Satan has the tail that comes down from the spine. So Alvin Boy Kuhn states, coming forth in a day when theology has long been discredited, even in its own ecclesiastical household, and religion itself is threatened with obliteration by rampant forces hostile to it, this philosophical knowledge aims to rehabilitate theology and to stabilize true religion. See, that's the whole goal of this science. It's not to debunk religion. It's not to promote atheism. This science is to understand the science of God, the creator, the super soul, and the individual soul and its relationship to it. The descent of soul into physical realm and the individualized self, and how the creator can manifest individual copy beings of itself without depleting its own self, and how it interacts with those forms. As in the Upanishads, it says that always know the three. You have the souls, the universe, and the I that watches both, which is Krishna or Christ or Jehovah Elohim. But Jehovah Elohim sends forth a messenger, which descends into the physical realm and witnesses. Anagogically, we have the I am, which is the back space that we fill within us, the substratum of our being. Then we have the witness, the watcher, the perceiver, and the perceived, which is relating to the mysteries of Gemini, because Gemini is all about the perceiver and the perceived and understanding who is what. Understanding that you are the knower of the field, that the field is the body and everything you see around you, and the knower is the one that is non-manifest, that fills that. So I'm going to share my screen really quick here. So if the body is the microcosm, we're going to learn about the sacred secretion, how the sun or that solar force manifests in the body as a psychophysical seed. The psychophysical seed, or the fruit of the tree of life, is born in the solar plexus or the manger. Same way the sun is born in between Sagittarius and Capricorn, because that is the horse and the goat. Jesus being the horse god, or born in the manger, which is the home of the animal appetites. See, below the heart chakra is below Eden. This is where we start entering the more human bestial nature. In Eden is the heart chakra, which is the mid-garden. Then the throat, being the blue chakra, is like the blue sky that we can see above us. And then we have the ultraviolet, the firmament, and beyond that, which would be the higher chakras, the kingdom of heaven. So, of course, the pineal gland, Joseph, secretes the honey, and the pituitary Mary secretes the milk, which are the different chemical fluids they manifest these being impulse from the claustrum. Now, the claustrum sends an impulse to allow these two glands to secrete these chemicals. These chemicals being the water, the body, that I said the fire has to evaporate, remember. So these fluids go down the chimney, known as the chimney of Santa Claus, the brain being the North Pole. Number two, the two sacred oils travel down into the solar plexus via the semilunar ganglion, pneumogastric nerve. Then the psychophysical germ, the fruit of the tree of life, is born in the solar plexus in the manger. Then it's carried down to the sacrum. This is Jesus preaching to the Gentiles, or the genitals, going down to the lower realm, going down to the physical realm to preach or to save the souls from hell. Then we have it lifting up to the very top of the brain. Now, in the brain, that Christic seed actually ends up converting the animal cells of the brain into their spiritual counterparts. Anagogically or literally talking about how Jesus at age 12 is arguing with the doctors, arguing with the priest in the temple, telling them to convert from their material sense of being into their spiritual nature. So like I said, the Lord manifests in different ways. He manifests in the body as the seed. He manifests astrologically as the sun. He manifests as, Rudolf Steiner believes that the sun, the soul spirit itself of the sun, manifests a ray of Son of God that manifests in a physical body. So that means that the spirit of the Son actually manifests in a physical human form. It can also be interpreted morally, understanding that Jesus is the epitome of all truth, all self-realized truth, and the highest epitome of knowledge, as well as Krishna. So like in the book, when you're reading them and Krishna is talking or Jesus is talking, you're supposed to understand it as God speaking. That is the highest nature, or the Son is speaking through the beings. The Son is speaking to us. And we understand that the book is a manifestation of the light. That's why it said that the field creates this knowledge. No one invented astrology. No one invented these stories. These stories come from the mind of God. You know that the first Hermetic principle is all is mind. So all of these ideas, whether it be the story of Pinocchio, even has the truth of the solar mysteries within it, or Cinderella. So all of these different stories have the hero within it, because the hero is the soul, and that soul is the Son of God, because it's the first manifestation from which is the logos, which is the solar luminescent sound that is the firstborn from God. That's why chanting is so important, because when you chant, whether it be Christ or Krishna, Krishna, Christ, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum, Hare Ram, 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 and you do it within your mind, you can go back. So for example, on earth, for example, you do it audibly out loud. Then astrally, you do it, kind of silently, whispering. And then finally, you do it within yourself, inaudibly, so not out loud. Now you're peeling back the layers of your being. Finally, speak it from the highest point of your being to where it's only a subtle whisper, which is giving you access to the still small voice within, which is the manifestation of the Son. That inner Son is the inner master, the guardian angel, the higher dynamic of your being, which is supposed to help guide you. See, a lot of people see Christianity is all about the inner compass. That inner compass is the inner Christ, the inner intelligence that manifests through us eternally. There had never been a time where that inner consciousness had not manifested. And it manifests from its highest abode in the brain physically into all the different archetypal Sephiroth within ourselves. So the body is the mirror of the higher abodes, and the higher dimensions are accessed through the body here and now. And remember that these conditions are conditioned before a state of mind before they're in actual place. So these higher abodes or higher planets are actually where the soul can attain to these different realities. So I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. This is Syncretism, Prisca Theologia, the mysteries, and I'm just trying to help us understand the truth. Right now, a lot of people are pushing atheism, nihilism, and to say that religions were just created to brainwash us or control us, which is a half-truth. They all come from the supreme science of God and the individual soul and its journey back home. So I hope that we can kind of put it all together, make some of these esoteric terms a little bit more familiar, and understand the transcendental science of the soul, and help us understand that the Creator wants us to grow in wisdom and truth and love and service, and to develop ourselves in knowledge and love as well as work. So karma yoga, dhyana yoga of self-inquiry, as well as bhakti yoga of devotion. Like Manly P. Hall said, man is a triune being. We have the body, the emotions, and the mind, where we have the soul, the mind, the body. And we have to be able to utilize all three of them so that we can activate and become resurrected from our cross. And it's not too much to say that, because even Christ says, bear your cross. So thank you.